Hello all, I am Fadela Shaib, speaking to you from WHO headquarters in Geneva and welcoming you all to our global COVID-19 press conference today, Friday, 5th February. We have simultaneous interpretation in the 6 UN languages.
Currently, we haven't made a recommendation on the use of ivermectin, but we're closely following the research that is ongoing related to this drug, which has shown some promising results in some trials for the treatment of COVID-19. We are aware that there's currently data available of about 1,500 study patients, just slightly less than that, from 11 studies. And there's data expected from up to more than 7,000 patients in 56 studies. And these studies are of varying quality. So we have a WHO steering committee that is tracking these studies and closely looking at them in order to trigger the guidance, and when we have enough information to look at guidance and updating our guidance to change policy. This may begin in the coming weeks. So any of the changes that come from WHO recommended treatments follow an expedited but an incredibly comprehensive review, which is shared with the public, which will be shared with the public at the earliest time that we can. And so, do you want to cover the second part?
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. I would like now to call on Gabriela Sotomayor, a Mexican journalist from Proceso. Gabriela, you have the floor.
Thank you, Fadela. Thank you very much. Hola, ¿qué tal? So my question is on treatment. I know vaccines are very important, but my question is on treatment. I would like to know, what is your assessment on the use of ivermectin in the early stages of the disease? For example, there is a group of specialists in USA saying that they recommend the use of this very cheap and old drug. So I don't know if you observed something on this, on the use of this antiparasite. And then a quick clarification. I would like to know if the hypothesis of the on the origin of the virus, the hypothesis of the laboratory incident, is still alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela. Dr. von Kerkhove will take the first question.
I could take the first part of that. We also have Peter Benenberg online who can answer the second part of that. So yes, we have been asked the question about ivermectin before, and the clinical team is looking at data right now on different studies that have been evaluating ivermectin. What they're doing is they're synthesizing the data from different studies. Some of those studies had small sample sizes, and the idea is to pool those together into a meta-analysis and apply what they call a grade framework to assess the certainty and the benefit or the risk based on each of those studies. They're using the same methodology that they've used for all of the living guidance that have been produced throughout this pandemic. And they are hoping that they will have guidance in the coming weeks, in 4 to 6 weeks or so. They have a steering committee that are following the different results of clinical trials around the world, and that is being used to trigger the development of the guidance by the WHO team. So that has been triggered, and that is currently underway.
I would like to invite Dr. Sylvie Briand to complement the first question we got from Gabriela about treatment. You have the floor, Dr. Briand.
Thank you very much, Fadela. Yes, just to complement on the issue of treatment, what is clear is that we may need to have many different treatments for COVID-19. The first studies were done on hospitalized patients, meaning patients with quite a severe disease, and we found that, for instance, dexamethasone was very useful for severe patients. But now there are many studies ongoing to see if we can treat patients that are outpatient, not yet hospitalized, to prevent them to go to severe disease. And so this treatment needs to be administered very early on in the disease, and this is why those studies were more complicated, especially at the early stage of the pandemic. But now we start to have more information on those treatments. So ivermectin is this type of treatment that is not specific. It's an antiparasitic drug, as you rightly said, and this drug has a broad spectrum activity, and this is why it can be used at the early stage of the disease, trying to prevent the further severe disease. And so the studies are ongoing, and we'll see if this treatment can be useful to prevent severe disease in COVID-19 patients. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brion.